All right. What
Good.
a day. I got Curtis Armstrong here. If you guys don't know Curtis Armstrong is a veteran of the media business, a former publisher, sales manager, copy editor, proofreader,
Banged out a few editorials
bangs
earlier.
out a few editorials. But yeah, so it's Curtis Armstrong. Curtis and I used to work together many moons ago at Muskoka Magazine. What's Up Muskoka? Over the years since then, both of us have gone different directions, still in the industry. And Curtis is hanging out. He's from Bracebridge, and he's got a lot of knowledge on a lot of topics. So, Curtis, thanks for hanging out with the show.
No problem, Chris. Good to see you, buddy.
Before we get started, you got some cool stuff happening. What do you got going on? What do you start? You started a new business or something?
Yeah. In a lot of my roles over the years, I've been both the publisher and the sales director
Mm-hmm.
of the properties that I've been with different media companies
Yeah.
throughout Canada. And obviously, the shift from traditional media, so
Yeah.
print, terrestrial radio, broadcast television, has shifted to digital.
Yeah.
And when you really boil it down, probably about 80 cents to 85 cents of every dollar being spent is going right to Meta or Google.
Yeah.
So for anyone, that's hard to carve out anything,
Yeah.
really, right? So what I've been working on recently and over the last few years is developing custom audiences for my clients.
Nice.
Traditional marketing campaigns, if you're using, say, Facebook or
Yeah.
Instagram or whatever, are based upon the current location of your audience set.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're advertising to people in Huntsville between the ages of so and so and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
as long as they meet that criteria, then your ad will be delivered to them based on the metrics
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
in. So the software that I use allows me to draw any shape I want to on a Google map anywhere in the world,
Nice.
and then go back in time up to 2 years. And my software will tell me how many cell phones were registered in that area during that time frame,
Awesome.
and that becomes your custom audience for digital display. But it also, you can take that list and plunk it into pretty much any demand side platform. So Meta's ad
Yeah.
servers, TikTok, Snapchat,
Anything.
Spot, anything really. So when it comes to like a Muskoka-based solution, I've drawn a shape around probably the 20 biggest lakes
Nice.
in the area, and then set a time frame, just a preliminary one, just to get a baseline number of May to Labor Day.
Yeah.
And it comes back, I think Lake Muskoka has about 75, 80,000. So it really squares the circle for clients in this region to be able to speak to property owners on those lakes
Yeah.
when they're not here.
Yes.
Yes. So when you really start diving into it, you start looking at visitor frequency,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to make sure that you're presenting the highest quality, almost a bespoke audience,
Mm-hmm.
to potential advertisers to reach that exact audience that they're looking for. So if I can filter out people who live here year round,
Yeah.
um, or tourists, because tourists and cottagers are two different
Two
audience
different
sets.
audiences.
Absolutely.
Two different segments.
Yeah. So that's one that I found a lot of success in. Doing a lot of recruiting, actually. I recently moved back here from British Columbia,
Nice.
and like much of the rest of the country, skilled tradespeople are at a premium right now.
Yeah.
So you look at certain projects or areas or trade schools where plumbers or
Mm-hmm.
electricians would be or have been in the last year or
Yeah.
say, and then set up custom audience sets for companies in the oil sands in
Nice.
Fort McMurray,
Yeah. Yeah.
shipbuilding properties in Vancouver and Delta.
Who are looking for
Yeah,
these type of skilled
absolutely. And
labor?
there's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
20 plumbers sitting around Vancouver circling want ads in the
No.
newspaper. Like you gotta, it's for lack of a better term, it's poaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're introducing a better value proposition, to those skilled tradespeople,
Yeah.
in an effort to get them to work for you. So if you're building like a large vessel, like a client that we had in the Lower Mainland, it's not linear like a car
Mm-hmm.
factory. It's built in batches. So you bring in dozens or hundreds of metal workers to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
the superstructure in the hull
Yeah.
and the stringers and whatnot. Then you bring in dozens of plumbers to plumb the whole thing and
Yeah.
dozens of electricians to wire
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Like
Um,
huge projects. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. These are icebreakers or
Yeah.
cruise ships or military
Yeah.
specs or whatever. So the issue with recruitment marketing is that if you're good at it, the need for it goes away.
Really quick.
Yeah, because you've fulfilled. It's not like an enterprise thing where it's ongoing. Like
Yeah.
I've got a widget factory and I make
Yeah.
X amount of widgets a day, and
Yeah.
I need to sell X amount of widgets
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
this customer base. So it's that, and then the other one, which actually really turns my crank. This is relatively new to market, is the ability to filter people by their financial data.
Oh.
So anyone who has a lease or a finance term coming up on their vehicle, let's say in Muskoka, becomes that custom audience set
Nice.
for car dealer or
Yeah. Yeah.
manufacturer. Anyone who has a mortgage coming up in the next, say, 6 months
Yeah.
for renewal or expiry, that becomes your custom audience
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
realtor or another lending company.
Makes sense.
Anyone who has a boat registered in their name, motorcycle, RV,
All that stuff.
trailer,
Yeah.
snowmobile. Um, if they have a MasterCard, their kind of purchase habits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you have a MasterCard gym membership, let's
Yeah.
say that you pay monthly, maybe Lululemon would like to advertise to you.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Or if you are frequently shopping at Lululemon, maybe Sephora would like to reach you.
Yeah.
Or if you're maybe a contractor and you're into Home Depot 6, 7 times a month,
Maybe they want to promote some new stuff to you.
Rona
Yeah. Yeah.
or someone else.
Somebody else.
Yeah. So it's there's a lot of information to go through,
Yeah.
and this isn't it's more performance based,
Yeah.
and it's really coming up with custom audiences to help get a certain message to
Hmm.
a certain audience group to get my clients from where they're at to where they want to be.
I like
And
it.
that's really what it boils down to. So when it comes to platforms, I'm more or less agnostic.
Yeah.
Um, those audiences can be plunked into any platform that you want, and
Yeah.
some can and will perform better than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of the campaign that you have running is saying, okay, well, we've got 5 different solutions running to this same audience set, but we're seeing, really high pickup on Instagram as
Yeah. Yeah.
compared to, say, Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we'll decrease the Amazon budget and reallocate that into Instagram.
I got
And
you.
it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of machine learning, but it's also, if you ever speak French, there's 2 words to know something.
Yes.
There's one to know it for a fact, like
Yes.
2 + 2 = 4.
Yes.
The other one is to know things from experience.
Yes.
Like I know how to ride a bike or I know
Yeah.
how to
Yeah. Yeah.
skate.
Yeah.
That's the second half there. So when you look at everything, start visualizing data on an ongoing basis, to meet back up with your client to show them, okay, here's what we've done. Here's the amount of overall views.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a big funnel, right? All
Yeah.
the way down to conversion point. So you might get, as an example, you might get twice as many clicks to your website from Facebook than you did from Amazon,
Yes.
but your conversion rate of that traffic source from Amazon is
Way
way
better.
higher.
Yeah.
So it's
You might want to go with what's the better conversion rate? Like, where am I
absolutely.
getting the more sales,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what you can help do is narrow that down and be like, hey, this site or this service or whatever,
Hmm.
because we've worked the data, is actually giving you more revenue and better
Yeah.
results than this site. Even though this looks like the numbers are bigger,
Yeah.
it's not giving you the results you're looking for,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So,
So it's one thing to get that data, it's another thing to interpret it,
yeah,
and you might have to do a bit of a reorganization of a reallocation of budget within that campaign.
yeah,
So if you're spending, I don't know, $5,000 a month,
okay,
you may want to start off with $1,000 dedicated to each
yeah,
platform.
yeah,
After 30 days, you'll get a pretty good idea of how it's performing. After 45, that's usually my bellwether,
yeah,
where I can say, okay, here's what we're seeing right now. I would recommend, and it's more or less A/B testing.
yes,
So you can A/B test creative, but you can also A/B test audience sets, or you can A/B test platforms too.
nice,
And then determine, if you, with my clients, I make sure I have pixels all over the back end of their site so I can see, okay, here's what's working,
here's what's not, yeah,
yeah, here's what's converting into, and
yeah,
that's what it really boils down to. So, every business that I meet, and this is one of the things that I've enjoyed most about the roles that I've had over the years, I love learning about other people's businesses
yeah,
and
yeah,
organizations. I
that's
just
awesome,
it just fills my bucket, if I
that's
may. It's
awesome,
it's just it's a bit of a thought exercise,
yeah,
um, and to get an idea of not only what they do, but why they do it,
yeah,
and that's really important.
huge,
And when people do deploy certain tactics or programs with me, I do want them to somewhat focus on the why.
yeah,
Like, why do you do what you do? Because I
yeah,
love it. I'm passionate about it, whatever
yeah,
that may
yeah,
be,
yeah.
right? So, uh,
Like, or I grew up and my grandfather always did this and he used to take me to the shop and I loved doing this
mhm,
and so that's why I came to this industry or
yeah,
whatever it is,
mhm,
right? Or I loved fishing on Lake Muskoka so much I wanted to start a business here and
yep,
this is what came up.
absolutely,
Right?
absolutely. And you never know what that thing is going to be,
No, never.
but it's very interesting, and it's why they started it, where they see themselves fitting in.
Yeah,
Some businesses I deal with are at the top
yeah,
of their
yeah,
industry.
yes,
And you when you advertise, there's kind of the three
yeah,
P's. There's um prospects
yeah,
and protection.
yeah,
So protection, if you're um you know a the industry leader in a market like this, you want to maintain that and keep as
100%,
much market share as you can. If you're
yes,
number 2, 3, 4, or 5,
yeah,
you want, if the pie is only so big, you
yeah,
want to make your piece of the pie that much bigger.
100%.
So So that's what it boils down to. So yeah, it's I do miss the news side
Yes.
of the business, if I may.
Yes.
Um, I've certainly enjoyed my time doing it, but it's really, really difficult. It's also very expensive to create high quality news content.
Yeah. It's
On
not
the other
cheap.
side of that coin, it's also it can be difficult to monetize it
Oh, big time.
too. Yeah.
Big time. It's tough. I mean, obviously, have my own blog, trying to figure out how to make a little dough off that. And, everyone wants everything for free now. And then you got to try and get so many, views and so many hits and so many subscribers so
Yeah.
that if you have enough, then you can actually go sell some advertising to people to
Yes.
make it worth their while.
Yeah.
Or you can jump on the Google ads, but by the time you get on Google ads, you need millions of hits to make it worth your while.
It is because you're essentially if you're putting your inventory out there for people like me to
Yeah.
bid on, and
Yeah.
that's more or less how it works. I'll use the Weather Network as an
Yes.
example. Everyone has a weather app on their phone. Often it's a Weather Network or
Everybody.
it's on their homepage or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Their audience across the country is so vast in
Yeah.
scale and geography.
Yeah.
And then you break it down even more into demos of who's there and blah, 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 how
Yes.
frequent they are.
Yes.
It is nearly impossible for them or, say, Sportsnet or CBC
Yes.
to sell all the inventory on their platforms
No,
just because that audience is so big.
it's
So,
huge. Yeah.
so if more or less, this is the way it works for display ads, say on the Weather
Yeah.
Network. Any inventory that they themselves do not sell goes into a big pool.
Yes.
And then companies like mine go in and buy those ad units based
Yes.
upon it's not that I want the Weather Network. I want certain audiences
Y-
who go to the Weather Network.
For your clients.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So when you are producing your own content,
Yeah.
your own audience is going to vary
Big time.
considerably
Big time.
in demos, in
Oh
household
yeah.
income, whatever that may be, if you're drawing a big enough audience. So if I'm buying advertising on your site, I may or may not be reaching the people that I want to reach
Exactly.
based upon my demographic needs for who
Yes.
I'm trying to reach.
Yes.
It's more of a brand exercise, if
Yes.
I may. Whereas what we're doing is a little bit more performance based.
Yeah.
So we're looking for audiences um, based upon their behaviors,
Yeah.
based upon their demographics, based upon current and historic locations.
Yeah.
So if I am a sports bar, say in Toronto,
Yes.
I may draw a shape around the Scotiabank Center and put every home game that the Raptors and Leafs have had, or Toronto Rock, or whoever else plays there, for the last year,
Yeah.
and then only deliver ads to people when they're in Toronto.
Yes.
So if I live here in Huntsville and I went to a Leafs game 3 weeks ago, my ad wouldn't get delivered to me when I'm in Bracebridge.
No, be delivered there. So
Yeah,
you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go to this sports bar while I'm here in Toronto.
yeah.
Yes.
Conversely, if I'm a jersey making company
Yeah.
or memorabilia, whatever sports
Yeah.
related, with an e-commerce aspect to my site, I won't put those restrictions on to
Because
begin with
no,
anyway, because all of my business is based upon traffic to my
wherever you
website.
are. Yeah.
So more often than not, if people went to a Raptors or a Leafs game, depending on who they are, let's say
Yeah.
keep it within Canada for when the ads get delivered. If you went to a Raptors game, you will get an ad for a Raptors
Yeah.
jersey. If
Yeah.
I went to a Leafs game, I'll get a Leafs jersey.
Yes.
So, and
I gotcha.
yeah,
It
so
makes
break
sense.
it down even further than that, but that's the base
Yeah,
level
yeah,
of
yeah.
it. So,
Speaking of merch, we're gonna have merch. We're gonna have Chris O Show blog and podcast merch coming up. So you're gonna buy merch, people. If you're listening, you're buying merch. That's what you're doing.
are you comping me some?
Maybe,
I'll rep,
maybe.
get some
Depends
exposure
where
for
you're
you in South
going.
Muskoka. So,
Depends where you're going.
I was gonna go to the
We're
boat show
we're
tomorrow.
we're we're beyond Muskoka now. We're going past Muskoka with everything. We're not focusing local. Too many local sites already.
Really?
We're gonna be all over now. We're gonna just grow.
Really?
Yeah, we're gonna talk to anybody and everybody.
Perfect.
Now, and about anything and everything. I'm like actually going less local. I'm actually going to do some freelance work for a local news site soon. That arrangement is happening soon, so I will still be covering some local stuff. But as far as my blog, I find there's too many people doing local news, and I'm just gonna, I want to grow the podcast. The only way to grow the podcast is to appeal to a wider audience. The only way to grow the blog is to appeal to a wider audience,
Hmm.
get broader, and be more national, international, lifestyle, fun stuff. And whatever sports I feel like writing about.
No good.
Just whatever I feel like writing about.
Well, I think that's the way the world is working right
Yeah, yeah.
now. It's really, I
And
came from
podcast about.
a news background, obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
but what you're really competing for at the end of the day is people's attention, and
100%.
there's only 60 seconds in a minute.
Yeah.
So when I looked at part of my role within my last job in British Columbia at a news site there
Yeah.
was growing our digital audience, but
Yeah.
without relying on say Facebook. So at the time, when I started, Bill C-18 hadn't come into effect yet.
Yeah, that's right.
So we would get a fair amount of traffic from Facebook, but the overwhelming majority of it was direct. So
Okay.
people who had us bookmarked,
Yes.
we had a mailing list of, I don't know,
Yeah.
10,000 readers.
Yeah.
So the newsletter would drop daily with the news stories of the
Yeah.
last 24 hours
Yeah.
at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So that's one traffic source. Uh, Facebook, which is now done.
Yeah.
And even if the conservatives win power and repeal Bill C-18, based upon everything I've seen for what Meta's strategy is, they don't want any part of news anywhere. And
No.
they're not going to make the same deal that they made in Australia, which is or will be very soon coming to an end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if you get pushback from the Australian government
Yeah.
and Facebook will be like, well we're just going to shut that off too.
Yeah.
So
We just won't have it.
so it
Yeah.
affected Facebook and Google in Canada
Yeah.
specifically. Facebook just totally took a step back. Okay, if you are a news site, you are not on our platforms anymore.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Google did lean in
Yeah.
and they have formed some very meaningful partnerships with news outlets throughout the country as a
Yeah.
collective or individually, because they do understand kind of their role in
Yes.
disseminating, especially local news
Yes.
to local audiences.
Yes.
Um, Facebook is a bit of a different model, whereas what they're looking for on their platforms is engagement.
Yes.
So the longer you're on Facebook on your phone, scrolling, the more ads they can deliver,
Yeah.
the more money they make.
Yeah.
And their kind of rationale, and I don't really believe the numbers. There was that news only made up X, like a very small percentage of our overall engagement.
Yeah.
Even when you look at Facebook now, when people post screenshots, which you can still do, showing the
Yes.
headline, the first paragraph or so of a
It's the
story,
engagement's way bigger
yeah,
than it
yeah,
used to be.
yeah. But now there's no guardrails
No, not at all. Now
because
people
you could
can
just
go off.
screenshot anything and make
People
it look as legitimate as you want
and
to.
people go off on
Yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah.
So
So, and the algorithms will keep feeding you, especially on their platforms, what you've been interacting with.
it's true.
So, oftentimes we've created a bubble around ourselves as news consumers
Yeah.
that we don't even know that we've created. And what you get is confirmation bias.
Yeah.
So, I
All
believe
the
in
time.
this, and
All
this
the time.
algorithm sees it, and we'll just keep feeding that user more and more and more and more of that
All the
content.
time.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah. So it's a different model. For Google is more of a pull.
This is what people have to you all have to get out of your bubbles because it's driving me crazy the way you some people comment on things.
Hmm.
I go through the comments sometimes because sometimes I need a laugh and
Yeah,
some people are really funny,
yeah.
just naturally funny
Hmm.
people, and
Yeah.
it's funny. But then every once in a while you come across stuff and it's just the most ignorant like stuff. And I'm sitting there and being like, you have not even looked beyond your own little biases. You have not looked at the overall picture. You're just commenting nonsense. It's not facts. And it happens on all sides of the coin. This is not just right or left or
Oh
green
no,
or
it's not exclusive
it's
to
not
either side.
exclusive.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. And so someone just like whether it's the liberals with all this nonsense, every chance they get, some conservative person is a Nazi or this or whatever slur they can come up with for them.
Yeah.
Um, and even normal conservatives who are not any of those things,
Hmm.
they treat like the same way,
Hmm.
right? Oh, you're conservative, you must be evil.
Hmm.
That's not true. Maybe talk to some people and you'll see that most conservatives are more to the center, just like most liberals are more to the center. It's the fringes that are the assholes.
Yes.
Um, and you get that from the liberals, you get that from the conservatives, where they think every liberal's a wingnut. Every liberal's got an agenda to, destroy our children. And this, it's like, okay, you're an asshole too, because you're not looking at the real picture. So what you need to do is do what I do, which is read news from left and right sources, watch videos from left and right news sources,
Hmm.
pick through and see who's just kind of trying to stir your emotions and who's actually trying to present some real facts and some thought-provoking commentary and thought-provoking news. When you do that, now your algorithm's all screwed up because you're getting a little bit of everything. But you have to force yourself to do that. You have to force yourself to read. I'll even read Al Jazeera news. I'll read like L'Equipe in France. I'll read, obviously La Gazzetta. I'll read Toronto Sun. I'll read Globe and Mail. I try to avoid the Star because they always just paywall you. But like, I try to read different things. I
Hmm.
try to check out CBC News once in a while when they're not being too much of the press secretary for the
Well,
government
I could go off on the
hands,
CBC.
right?
Yeah.
But even if so, I try and see what they're doing because somewhere in the middle of all this is kind of the truth.
Yeah.
And you can come up with an opinion based on all the different ideas and facts and stuff. And then you kind of digest. You're like, okay, well, yeah, I agree with these points. And I agree with that points. And here's my opinion. Everyone needs to do that to you. Everybody needs to do that.
I would say, to go a little further, do not rely on social media to be
At
your
all.
primary news source. It is a
No.
platform that is going to give you more of what you found tasty earlier.
Yes.
One of the better value propositions, I think, is Apple News.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think it's about $11.99 a month, but
Yeah.
it's, all the outlets that you've
Yeah, do
mentioned
that.
across the world.
Yes.
And you can curate it the way you want it. Like, there's some outlets that I prefer more than others.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's it's
For sure.
it's a big mix. It's mostly, domestic and I would say North America news outlets.
Yeah.
Um, but scrolling through that gives you, so you don't have to do your subscription to the Star and the New
No.
York Times and the Post
No.
and
I
blah
like
blah blah.
common mail.
Yeah.
Like I'll give Globe money.
Hmm.
I'll give certain so anything that's kind of centrist or tries to be more moderate and in the middle,
Hmm.
I don't mind supporting those ones financially
Hmm.
because I'm like I feel like you're doing the right thing because I went to journalism school. I was a journalist for years. Now I'm more of a writer, a blogger, media personality, podcast host. But I was an actual, as you know, we worked together. I was
Hmm.
an actual journalist for years. So when I see actual news sites and actual news broadcasts and newspapers and whatever, actual news trying to be that moderate, um, source of factual information for the, verified factual information,
Hmm.
I don't mind supporting that.
No.
What I mind is these people who are very, they're very, very, very right or left leaning,
Hmm.
trying to get my money. I'm like, no, no, just
Hmm.
give me your agenda shit so
Hmm.
I can come up with the facts myself. Right. Like, so this is where, but I've done the curating because I've been in the business, so
Well, when you look at, say traditional media,
yeah.
CNN and MSNBC, their audience has dropped 40, 50% since the election. People don't consume news on
No.
linear television. And if they do, like, the median age of MSNBC
Yeah.
viewers is 71.
Yeah.
That is not a demographic that advertisers are going for.
Zero.
And it's too bad because they have the net worth
Yeah.
in
They
North
do.
America.
They do.
The boomers, zoomers, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
them, that's who's got the purse strings.
Yeah.
Um, but they're not persuadable. Like, it's
No,
hard to
they
get
like their
someone who's
stuff.
71 to change their
Yeah.
buying habits, or,
No.
the white rhino, so to speak, for advertisers is men between the ages of 30 and 45,
Yeah.
really. So they're the ones who will spend lots of money on things that they don't need to or don't have to,
No, they
but
just
because they
want
want
to.
to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That makes
so
sense.
depending on who you are and who you're trying to reach, it's, again, look at who's advertising on MSNBC or CNN if you ever watch them.
Yeah.
It's, depends, and reverse
I
home,
try not to.
reverse mortgages, and
I try not to. I'm not gonna lie. I try
excuse me.
not to. You know who I like, even though they piss me off sometimes because they get a little too far left. But um, generally, Anna, what's her name, brings them. Kasparian brings them back to center.
Hmm.
Is the Young Turks? You ever watch them?
Sometimes, yeah.
So
Yep.
they're relatively
Lefty,
left.
yeah, yeah.
But Anna's become more center.
Yep.
She's bringing them back to the center. She's like, okay, some of this is stupid. I'm a mom. I
Hmm.
don't want my kids exposed to this nonsense. So
Hmm.
she brings kind of that I'm a parent,
Yes.
kind of I'm a center left parent
Yeah.
to it now.
That lens of,
That lens,
yeah,
and I'm like, that's kind of all of our lenses right now. We're all
yeah,
parents. We're all center left, but we're parents, and we're like, hey, we got to look at this realistically,
yeah.
like as a human being and as a parent to a young girl
Hmm.
who might be competing against men or this and that. Now you start looking at things more logically, and yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms, but whatever. You start looking at things more logically, and now she brings a different viewpoint, and now I feel like, okay, it's a little more well-rounded. It's not just Chank Sank, whatever he calls himself, going off about you know the left is the worst or the right is the worst, the
Hmm.
left is the best. It's like,
Yep.
we got to be centered. I like her because she brings things centered. So I've been watching them more,
Yep.
and they do some good coverage, even though they are you take it with a grain of salt
Well, how much of what they do is news and how much of what
and
they do is
commentary,
commentary? And
right?
there's two different things
Yeah, yeah,
there.
that's true.
you know journalism is expensive to produce because you
Huge.
need people who are trained and understand what their role is and how to present it, how to get facts, like
Yeah,
in the case of local news, how to file FOIs
yeah,
with municipal
yeah.
governments, district,
Freedom of
province, freedom of
information.
information. Sorry, yeah, sometimes I get a little too inside baseball. um and then when you publish it,
Yeah.
regardless of what your platform is. It could be, and by publish, I'm going to use it as a broad thing.
Broad thing,
So yeah, if you're
publish. Yeah, yeah.
presenting it on television, video,
What can
whatever,
I publish?
you're creating an audience. Now that audience, say for the Young Turks, could be very desperate
Yes.
or disparate, I should say. Whereas it would,
Although some of them are desperate.
yeah, well, it could be. But you're creating an audience that varies very widely in geographics,
Yeah,
demographics.
yeah.
So, you know, my ability is to go in and handpick those pieces of audience, regardless of what platform they're on.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're going to have, especially in the internet 2.0 or even 3.0 that we're
Yeah.
in right now. It used to be, especially with the advent of social media, everyone's a publisher now.
Oh, it's crazy.
And that's really what it boils down to. Everybody is creating content.
Everybody is, yeah.
And some people can monetize it, some people can't.
And some people are creating good content, and some people, and the crazy part is some of the people creating the best, most authentic, original content are actually not making a lot of money, if any.
Yeah.
They're doing it because they love it, but there's some really good stuff out there. You just got to find it, and those are the ones you need to follow. Stop see like you got to see through the AI nonsense and recognize, you know what, that's not a real creator. Go to the real creators. Everyone accentuates with some AI now because you kind of have to in
Yeah.
order to be in the game, right? A little bit,
A little
like a
bit. Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it's fact checking for CP style, whether it's optimizing like the search SEO, going, hey, can you SEO my headline?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
people will kind of use it a little bit for certain things. But there's a lot of content creators that they're making real content with real people and original stuff, and those are the people we got to find and follow. And that's why I don't mind some of the commentary. You know what I watch sometimes just for fun on YouTube is some of the Fox News stuff,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's funny, right? It's funny. I know a lot of people are so anti Fox News, but I'm like, some of it's some funny stuff, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
especially what's that guy, Grunfield,
Glenn.
Glenn
Yeah.
Gutfield,
Yeah.
whatever. He brings on these people that are funny. Like they come up with and they're meant to be funny. And then if you take them too seriously,
Yeah.
right. So, and sometimes I watch it just to say, okay, because they all have good guests.
Oh, they
They
do.
get good guests on some of their programming.
Well, they try to get engagement.
Yeah.
And that's really what it boils down to. And if you look, and I think Meta realized this probably around 2016 when Trump first ran and won, it's all well and good to show people posts on, say, Facebook or Instagram of
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
friends' kids and their pets and their
Yeah.
trips and whatnot. What really keeps people engaged is anger.
Yes.
And you feed more and more of that, and you've got
Yeah. You got
you've
people
got
trapped.
you're pitting parts of countries against each other.
Oh,
So
100%.
living in Western Canada, there, especially in Alberta, there's a certain resentment for the 613, let's
Yeah.
just say. Um, it used to be, say, back in the Cold War in America, the enemy was Russia.
Yes.
Now in certain parts of the country,
The
the
enemy is
enemy is
yourself.
Florida
Yeah. Yeah.
or California or
The enemy is
Texas.
your own country.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
and who benefits from that?
Rich
Well,
people.
certainly Facebook does
Everybody that
because
was
it
standing at the inauguration.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
the lineup of internet billionaires
Oh yeah.
standing at the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump. If you looked behind him and you saw on that dais
Mhm.
and you saw that lineup of internet billionaires, Mark Zuckerberg of Meta, uh, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera,
Elon.
Elon,
Yep.
everybody, right?
Yep.
Those are the people benefiting from us fighting with each other over
Well,
nonsense.
especially with what X, formerly Twitter, has introduced with their partnerships for
Yes,
creators, you get verified
yes,
and then you're remunerated based on your engagement.
yes.
So you have people posting just insanely ridiculous things on
Just to get
Twitter
engagement.
just to get engagement. And even if it's a retweet or a
Well, you
cold
have
tweet
to
with
pay
this
just
is
to get
insane.
verified now.
I know. And the verification doesn't mean anything. That blue check mark.
It doesn't mean anything.
No.
You have to pay to get verified now. With I
Yeah.
X did a paid and the subscription because monetization and trying to make money off engagement and then just coming up with stupid stuff to get people to talk to you, I just don't agree with. I think it's stupid. I think you should just make good content, and good content should stand on its own. And I think all these platforms like X and Facebook and everyone else who's using people's good content to help drive engagement needs to just support the good original content creators who are creating some cool stuff, even if it is a bit like maybe a little bit antagonistic, as long as it's it's the right kind of antagonistic where it's like someone's authentic feelings and not just nonsensical ideas that are so far from the truth just to stir up people's emotions.
Yeah,
You know
so
what I
they're
mean?
replying or quote tweeting or
Yeah.
doing whatever. It's when not long after Musk took over X, formerly Twitter,
Yeah.
he was going on and on, oh, the mainstream media needs us and blah, 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 blah. I am of the opinion, based on the numbers that I would see looking at my analytics,
Yeah.
that Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, I still call it Twitter.
Yeah.
They need that media content from the quote mainstream media
Yeah.
um, to drive engagement on their platform
100%.
as compared to people posting stories and then driving traffic to various news platforms.
Yeah.
So when I really dug into my numbers over the years, and for those unfamiliar with Google Analytics, the way it shows you traffic to your site is based upon the different sources that you use to
Yes.
drive traffic. So at no point during my time over the last probably 4 years did Twitter ever drive more than 5% of my overall social traffic.
Yes.
So at that point, you're talking maybe 1 to 2%.
Yeah.
And when it comes to developing audiences too, like oftentimes, in the property that I was taking care of, we would have stories that would have provincial or even national interest. And so a building blows up a
Yeah.
couple of summers ago in downtown Prince George because two drug addicts went into this vacant building to try to harvest the copper out of it. The gas was still connected.
Oh
They
no.
compromised the gas line. The building filled up with gas and then it ignited and blew up. So that was probably among certainly our top 3 days in terms of page views. Now, a lot of those page views were driven by Facebook because people would post it and
Yeah.
then before there was a blackout for news on Meta's platforms, so you would get all these page views from all over Canada, some in the US, a few overseas, but it's probably like a 10 times news day
Yeah.
because it's such a big story.
Yes.
The vast majority of those page views, you are you really can't monetize
No.
because they're not a local. Like if I'm a local plumber in that city,
I'm
Prince
not
George.
promoting to
No,
someone in
no, if
New
someone,
York
yeah,
or
if someone
something.
in
Yeah.
Toronto because a building blew up in downtown Prince George,
Yeah.
that unit of audience to me is not really worth
At
anything.
all.
It's an aggregate number, and it's nice to see. Oh, okay, we're at 10 times our normal traffic.
Yeah.
Um, but it becomes unmonetizable with the exception of remnant ads that run on your site.
Yeah.
So it's when it really boils down to those platforms, specifically X, I think get a lot more engagement on their site, and it's more of a one-sided value proposition than
100%.
it is for them sending referral traffic to a
Yeah. Yeah.
news site.
100%.
Yeah. So,
There's not actually X is so and I kind of snuck through a lot of that Bill C-18 thing because I'm a blog with
yeah,
podcasts. Even though I would put some hard news on there
yeah,
mixed in with the commentary and all that,
hmm,
my hard news would actually get through and not be banned
yes,
because I'm a blog that also, I'm a blog,
yeah,
right? I'm a, that has podcasts, obviously you're probably watching if you've seen it somewhere else, it's the chrisoshow.blog. Um, and, uh, and so that was interesting to me, but X is the worst of all the things. I get more engagement from Instagram stuff,
yeah. Which you cannot really embed a
but you
link
can't
on a
embed.
post. You can in a story.
You can in a story, but
Yeah,
in the post, I can't. And even on my post, I just say click the link in the bio for more, and
yeah,
people will click the link in the bio
yeah,
because it's pretty easy to click a link in the
yeah,
bio, right?
yeah.
And that goes directly to my post and podcast page, and then they can see whatever they want. Um, but the X is the worst
Yep.
of all of them. Threads gives me more, which is associated with Insta, Meta, and everything, right? Threads gives me more
Hmm.
engagement.
Yep.
Facebook obviously gives me engagement. Like there's getting a ton of engagement on that one I did the other day with the truckers.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
getting tons of
Well,
every day. There's a new comment.
yeah. Well, it's become pervasive across the country. It's
Oh,
if look at
everybody's
Humboldt,
like,
that's kind of where it was brought to the national attention.
yeah,
But
yeah. But now it's getting so bad, and more people are seeing it. Like and they're like, I'm on the highway all the time. You're hearing from people, and it's
mhm,
it's worse than it's ever been.
yeah,
Because yes, that was the national attention of, okay, man, something's wrong with
yeah,
the Humboldt situation.
yeah,
And then there's been a couple other instances since then. But now it's like you're seeing just every week
hmm,
Highway 11 all the way up from Aurelia all the way up.
yep,
Specifically after Severn Bridge and up and north,
hmm.
right? But all the way north.
Well, a couple
All
of
the
weeks
way
ago.
on I-17.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was up near New Lisker, somewhere in northern
Yeah, yeah.
Ontario. The OPP up there caught a truck driver from Brampton who their window was broken, so they took a roll of duct tape and just duct taped the entire window.
Oh my gosh.
Removing your ability to use
You
that
can
side mirror, which you need, and like that is not acceptable.
It's not
Yeah,
acceptable.
absolutely. It's these are everybody's roads. I don't want
Or
to die.
or like that tow truck driver who was at a scene of an accident
A couple of nights ago.
a few nights ago in on Highway 11 and near Luigi Road, and I wrote about it in the blog post
Hmm.
about all this stuff where there's some statistics. If you haven't seen it, go see it. There's statistics in there of Ontario being the worst of the whole country for commercial vehicle incidents and
Hmm.
accidents
Hmm.
on the roadways.
Yep.
And last year we had over 3,000. Second place was BC with just over 1,000.
Yep.
Like that's pretty bad.
Yep.
But anyway, so it's like the police officers were out of the police cars attending to a collision where there was no injuries at all. They just were moving the vehicles with the tow truck, and a transport hits a police vehicle and which obviously then hit the tow truck or something, or hit the driver or something, and the driver has to go with serious injuries. The tow truck driver
Hmm.
had to go with serious injuries to the, sorry, I said industries. It's my ethnicity.
No comment. Not while
we're
we're recording,
we're
anyway.
gonna go make a sandwich after a sandwich. Anyways, but injuries to the hospital. No one had injuries
Hmm.
until the transport truck driver, not paying attention on a snowy, blizzardy night,
Hmm.
got in an accident.
Yep.
So you need to explain to me, and then shut the highway down until 3 a.m.
Yep.
So someone needs to explain to me why there is nothing being done. Every week there's two, three, four, five incidences.
Hmm.
Since the and that Gravenhurst shutdown that everyone in Ontario heard about with Highway 11 shutdown, transport trucks caused that shutdown. Just so everybody knows, let's be honest, and it's on the record. You can go check the police reports. Transport trucks not driving properly in the winter conditions
Hmm.
caused that shutdown of the highway and caused more and more problems that weekend. One of them jackknifed on an on ramp.
Hmm.
Like it just, they made a mess of everything because they don't know how to drive in the winter. They're not being trained properly. Anyways, we got off topic, but I just,
What were we talking about?
we're talking
About
about
Twitter, right?
Twitter and engagement, bringing it back. I'm getting more engagement from everything else, and that's a high engagement story. I'm getting more engagement from all the other platforms than I am from X. I think there's been like one click off X,
Yeah.
one engagement,
Which is not like it
which is
doesn't,
nothing, which is
not even
nothing. That's
measurable.
not measurable.
Yeah.
All the other ones I'm getting some decent engagement from, except that one. So X, maybe not the spot. Maybe I'm leaving after maybe I'm done. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Well, what I did like about Twitter was that it was in chronological order,
Yes.
and
Yeah, it was good. It was well run.
and
Let's
I
give it
almost
credit.
used it as like a news wire
Yeah, yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah, I remember
Now,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not what it was.
No.
I mean, it's not for everybody. It might be for some people.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I find myself like I still have it,
Yeah.
but I use it less and less.
Yeah.
What's really grown lately, and they've done quite well since they've done their IPO, is Reddit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I do find Reddit to be kind of a pseudo Twitter in a
Mhm.
way.
But are you able to like put your own news stuff on there?
Oh, if you want to, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. It's
Because I
more.
haven't explored it that
I mean, you
much.
can follow individual accounts, but I tend to follow more subreddits.
Okay.
So, geographic areas I'm interested in getting news in or
Yeah.
posts or whatever. So, there's our Muskoka, Bracebridge,
Yeah.
Huntsville, um, various cities that I've lived in or visit often, or
Okay.
just to get an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
it's after being in the news creation business for as long as I have,
Yes.
um, now that I'm not in that anymore, I have taken a little bit of a step back.
Okay.
That I don't follow things I still follow the news, obviously, um, but not as closely as I used to
Yeah.
because I don't need to
Yes.
anymore. And there's only so much doom scrolling one can do in a day before it
I'm trying
begins to
to
affect
avoid
your
that.
brain.
I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to just go more positive, but
But when it comes to, referrals or even advertising on the two platforms, let's pool X as one and the entirety of Meta in the other.
yeah.
Just looking at Facebook in North America probably has at least 10 times the amount of users
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that Twitter
100%.
does. So if I'm advertising, why you go fishing where the fish are?
Yeah. It's
It's
true.
really as simple as that. And when you start
And you can target, and if you're advertising on Meta, you can do a lot of targeted advertising real easy.
Well, what I've noticed since Musk took over is that there's almost no national advertising
Yes.
on X anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas you used to have, say, Ford Motor Company
Yeah. Yeah.
and like big food brands or whatever. And now it's just a lot of, I would almost call them like former infomercial.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you'd see at 2 a.m. in
Yes.
like 1998 if you
Yeah.
turned on cable TV. So it's like little gizmos and gadgets that
Yeah.
are just like junk,
Yeah. Yeah.
essentially. Um, Advertisers want their brands to be in a place that is safe,
Yes.
and they view what X has turned into as not brand safe for them.
No, no, and it's a bit of the Wild West
Yep.
now. Um, before, and like you said, I remember when it was Twitter and when it first started, it was great. I used to go and post little shorts of our news stories we were doing,
Yep.
back in the day,
Mhm.
and people would love it. Like I used to, like I had a lot more followers. I mean, I went off the platform for a long time while I revamped my life and
Mhm.
figured out where I was going next. But I lost those followers who were there just for my news coverage that I was doing all the time.
Mhm.
And then some people just kept following because they just don't unfollow anybody. And but then I found I had to grow it again a little bit, but it's just not at the point where it was. It used to be great where I'd hit some news things and people were like, yeah, okay, cool, thanks
Yep.
for the thing,
Yep.
and then people would be engaged.
Yep.
Now I find like you're lost in a sea of nonsense, and
Yep.
unless you're the most ridiculous person out there, you're not getting the attention.
No. No, I mean, if you look at most social media platforms, let's say,
Platforms, yeah,
um, they will take what you post and push it to only a certain amount of the people who follow you to get a benchmark for engagement on it.
yes,
So let's say they send it out to 10% of the people who follow you
yeah,
on platform A.
yeah,
If that 10% interacts with it,
they'll
then they're going
push
to
it to
show it
more,
more and
yeah, yeah,
more
yeah,
and more because, again, what they want is attention.
yeah,
So everything that we look at from an entertainment point of view, and I will count social media in
yeah,
that, um, is about attention.
yes,
So after COVID was over, um, it's over.
yeah,
After we were kind of getting out of it and things were beginning to get back to what they were pre-pandemic,
yeah,
the local WHL team in the market I was in was a great team. Last season, I think they were going into the playoffs. They were number one ranked junior team in
oh
Canada.
wow, okay,
So they made it to the Western Conference Final of the WHL. But during the regular season, coming out of the real hard restrictions for COVID, they were having a real hard time drawing
yeah,
fans. And it's a big enough market. It's not a huge barn,
yeah,
so you can fit, I don't know, 3,000-4,000 people in there. But you're competing against a population that was conditioned to consume entertainment at home.
yes,
It's the reason why box offices haven't come back yet for cinematic releases
yeah,
as well
yeah,
too. People were conditioned to get everything to them. You can get the biggest TV that you want or a projector for your living room with the
yeah.
best surround sound or hook up a Bluetooth headset
You
and
do whatever.
yeah, so you're competing with
People
if
can
you're
have their popcorn machines,
yeah,
movie style popcorn machines in their houses
yeah.
now. Yeah,
So if you are a junior hockey team as an example,
yeah,
um you are competing with all the streaming platforms.
yeah,
You are competing with YouTube, which is the biggest one of all.
yes,
If you look at the
by
streaming
far.
video,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
own that marketplace.
yes,
Now, whether or not the Justice Department will make them spin off Alphabet, which is the parent company of
yeah, yeah,
Google and
yeah,
YouTube, make them spin off YouTube because they have an antitrust judgment coming um, later this year. Um, so you're competing with PlayStations and
yes.
Xboxes,
Everything.
everything. So you've only got so much time and money as a consumer to dedicate towards being entertained.
Yeah,
Do you want to spend $28 a ticket
yeah,
plus all the concession
yeah,
plus the time and hassle and if it's a bad day weather-wise, do you want to get in your car and drive across the
yeah,
city or even here down to Barrie to go
yeah,
watch a Colts game as an example, when you could stream it at home if you wanted to?
yeah,
um, so everyone, again, we talked about before, everyone's a publisher.
yeah,
Junior hockey teams are publishing games,
yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah.
So and they're
And in
presenting an
essence, yeah,
audience to advertisers as well. So, if you look at even linear TV, what Comcast has done, Comcast owns NBC, Universal, Peacock, and
yeah,
those properties. They've decided to take their linear TV properties, their I guess classic
mm,
model, and spin that off into a separate company and
yeah,
keep Peacock and their streaming services. You look at companies like Disney that owns
yeah,
ESPN,
yeah,
ABC, um, the revenues from those traditional stations are beginning to dwindle
Yeah.
as people migrate away from linear TV. Like, how many
Mhm.
people do you know have cut the cord for cable and might subscribe to Sportsnet or TSN
Yeah,
to
yeah.
watch the Leafs or
That's
Jays or
it. Oh
Raptors,
yeah.
whatever?
I don't have cable.
No, neither do I. I haven't had it since
I
2016.
haven't had cable forever. I
Yeah.
just stream, stream, stream.
Yep. So there goes your television audience.
Yep.
There goes your ability to monetize that product. Now you've got sports moving to, you've got Thursday Night Football moving to Amazon. You've
Yeah,
got Monday Night Raw for the WWE
yeah,
moving to Netflix.
Netflix. Yeah.
And
Netflix had NFL Christmas
yeah,
games,
yeah. So it,
which
yeah.
were eh.
So it
But
wouldn't surprise me to see a company like Disney do the same with their legacy products
yeah, yeah,
of ESPN, ABC, the other broadcast networks that they have, and put that in this spin-off company and
yes.
keep Disney Plus, the theme parks, and the cruise ships as
A separate company.
yes.
I wouldn't be. But anyways, yeah. Like so, let's summarize.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, like you were saying, like the things are going to start consolidating a bit. There's going to be different products for different people to be like, oh, if you buy this, you can have these four, streaming lines. If you have this, you can have these four streaming lines. And now everybody's advertising. Did you notice how Netflix now has the three different subscriptions where there's the advertising on the one,
Yep.
advertising on the other,
Yep.
and then here, pay lots of money a month
For no
for
ads.
no ads.
Crave is the same.
Crave is the same.
Paramount, I don't believe has that option yet. It's
No,
all
Prime has that option.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's really, they are generating an audience through their content that they're
yeah,
producing and people are consuming.
yeah,
They monetize that audience originally via just subscriptions.
yeah,
Now they're doing it with an ad-supported platform.
yeah.
And again, like, for me, all of those ad units are available for me to
Oh,
to
awesome.
purchase because audiences have become so fragmented.
They have.
And you could start to see it with the proliferation of specialty niche cable TV channels.
Yeah, yeah.
And now there are hundreds, if not thousands, of TV channels
Oh yeah,
if
you
you
can
if
just
you
watch
want
what
them.
you want.
Yes. And that's really where, so again, for me, I'm platform agnostic. You
Yeah.
shouldn't just do YouTube or you shouldn't just do
No, you should do
Facebook or
everything. Yeah,
whatever. You do where those audiences are and communicate with them in a way that is going to pique their interest and make them
yes,
explore further, right?
yes.
So in any advertising campaign, regardless of the medium that you're using, you want reach and you want
Yeah,
frequency. If you're building a brand from the bottom up, you need to have a consistent presence
yeah,
in front of the eyeballs or ears or both of the audiences that you're trying to reach. There is a very good reason why Starbucks and McDonald's and Tim Hortons has their logos on their coffee cups.
yeah,
It
yeah.
probably costs them 50% more than just having an unlabeled coffee cup.
Yes,
But
but
it's a brand.
it's a brand. You
Yeah.
look at that coffee cup in your car
Yep.
after you finish drinking, you're like, oh, I could go for another coffee today or tomorrow or the next day. Because
Yep.
how many of us leave that coffee cup for 2 days before we clear it out? Especially when we're in the car for a while, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
I'm on the car on the road for 4 straight days,
Hmm.
for sure there's a coffee. Now I make my own espresso at home as we had today,
Hmm.
and I bring it. But if I'm buying coffee on the road like most people do,
Yeah.
you're gonna have that cup and you're gonna go, oh, so and so brand. I
Hmm.
want to go there. Oh, I need a coffee. Yeah, I'm gonna go there. Where's the closest one?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
And in the case of something like that, let's say those are the big three players
yeah,
in the majority of Canada: McDonald's, Starbucks, Tim Hortons.
yeah,
If you're advertising as a company like that, you're not going to create more coffee drinkers.
no,
You either drink coffee or you do not.
no, you're just
Yeah,
putting your name
it's
in their
market
head.
share. It's like when you see ad campaigns for any sort of grocery chain.
Yeah,
Everybody buys food,
yes,
so it's all market share.
all market
That's
share. Yeah.
it's conquesting.
It's like
Yeah,
who's gonna like whether it's the PCs of the world, the Galen Westons of the world, or the Metros or the this or the and then all of them that have their own umbrellas, right?
yeah,
Like because now it's like this Loblaws family of grocery stores and then this family of grocery stores and
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and they all have their little brands and it's like okay, well this brand is for these people and this brand is
Hmm.
for these people and this brand is for these people, right? And
Well,
you
look at
market to them.
how do you reach those people to conquest. So I would look at something like this.
Yeah.
Say there's four grocery stores under four different banners here in town. You've
Okay.
got hypothetically, you've got a Sobeys, you've got a Walmart, you've got
Yeah.
a Loblaw property, an independent grocer,
Yeah.
and you've got a Empire Brands,
Yeah.
which is Metro.
Metro. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm independent.
Mm.
I want to get market share from the other three. You come to me with that problem, there's a few different ways to go about it. One is that I can draw shape around those other stores and get people who frequently visit them and start sending ads to
Directly
those
to them.
people.
Yeah.
Another one is depending on the platform that you're using and the technology that you're using. If somebody is using a rewards program on their phone, their app. Yeah, so I can
Oh,
target those people
and
as
with
well
your own
too.
rewards program.
Absolutely, yes, with your own rewards program or a value
Yeah,
proposition.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what you really want, right? Is everyone knows the brand
yeah,
of grocery stores.
yes,
Like show a kid the Walmart symbol,
yeah,
they're gonna know that's Walmart.
100%.
Yeah. So that's how you want to look at it. Is like when you look at even flyers,
Yeah,
and flyers certainly went away during COVID,
yeah,
but they've kind of come back for the most part, and there's different vehicles distributing them in different markets, but they
yeah.
are prohibitively expensive to
Oh,
produce.
100%.
And dealing with various organizations over the years that produce flyers, a lot of them would say, people get my flyer, I've got a loss leader in there. Maybe it's a key lime
Yeah,
pie.
yeah, yeah.
People will take that flyer, go to the store, buy that key lime pie and that key lime pie only, and then leave. Is that what you want to do? Do you want to be
No,
keep selling your loss leaders all the time?
no.
Or do you want to create a value proposition where, hey, you should buy this, 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 and this here?
This whole list.
Maybe it's a quality play,
Yeah,
maybe it's a convenience
yeah.
play, could be both, it could be a price play, whatever that thing is for whatever
And
you're
then
trying to do, right?
generally what happens is once you get people in for more than one thing
Yep.
consistently,
Yep.
then they just start buying everything else there because they're like, well, I don't want to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I just want to stay here. I like this place. They give me the best quality. They give me the best whatever I
Yeah.
need. Anyways, on that note, we're getting close to time.
All right, buddy.
We have to summarize.
Summarize.
Summarize what we talked about here today. Okay, so X, not so great. Curtis's plan to help you monetize your businesses, really good. And hanging out is fun.
It is fun. Thank you for the espresso.
My
So
pleasure.
branded as well.
What
Coffee.
coffee? Well,
Yeah.
this one has the espresso
Oh, you
brand
got
on
the
it.
nice mug.
I
Well, it's
got
your
the
house,
nice
so
mug.
that's fair. So okay.
All right.
Until next time, buddy.
Until next time. Until next time, everybody, don't forget chrisoshow.blog. Follow, subscribe, like, share with your friends. And as Curtis mentioned, and he's an expert, we need more engagement. The more engagement you do, the bigger we get, the more we can keep giving you better and better products, better and better podcasts, better and better stuff, bigger and better everything. So hook it up. All right. Ciao for now, everybody.